Jrue Holiday can clamp down on anybody on the court, but how does he really do it? Let's go. Jrue Holiday made all defensive first team 3 different times throughout his career, and he's able to guard the 1 through 4 position pretty much with ease. Jrue starts his work early on the defensive end by making the first contact with the offensive player. Watching back the same exact play, Jrue Holiday will shade the offensive player to the left side of the court into the help side defense. Now, Andrew Wiggins early on in his career was known for going right a lot, so shading in this direction is just playing by the numbers regardless, but he will eventually win the first contact as Wiggins decides to go to the right anyway, and he cuts him off. He pushes off with his right foot in order to stay in front of the offensive player, and it disrupts the whole play. One of many things that I like about Jrue Holiday's defense is that he doesn't give up on any play. And here he gets beat by Lou Will, who is pretty much one of the best off the bench sixth man scorers we've ever seen. And he still runs and recovers. Yes, he's swiveling his hips side to side, and usually if you turn your hips as a defender, you should be beat. But knowing that the offensive player is trying to seek contact, he lays off of it and keeps active hands and steals the ball. A lot of the clips we are seeing is him being on an island in isolation. Jrue Holiday guarding 1 through 4 in isolation, beyond numbers, shows on film. Even fighting through screens to recover, he still made Austin Rivers on this play change directions multiple times. Making that first contact as a defender is one of the elite first steps in becoming one of the best defenders on the court. Even better thought, that contact is perfectly legal. The next tip and trick of Jrue Holiday's lockdown defense is his ability to stay squared up to the offensive player. And earlier we saw an example where he shaded to a certain side, but that's because he had help side in that spot, and that's how they were playing it. But staying squared up allows him to make that first contact and make an offensive player change directions. And the funny part about this concept is that, of course, if you are shading one way or the other, giving up that lead foot allows for more blow-by opportunities as an offensive player, but Jrue Holiday does a good job of not giving up his ground, and if they attack that front foot, he has a quick first step into cutting them off and making them go the direction that he wants them to go. He does not let the offensive player dictate anything on the court. Now, I know you're going to watch this next example and be like, Jake, he's shading him to the baseline. He's not squared up. But watch this. Right as the ball screen's coming up, you see Jrue Holiday bounce a little bit to square up to the offensive player before that first dribble happens. That is that quick first step that I'm talking about in order to cut off the offensive player. So, yes, it doesn't look like that originally, but then he squares up to him and all of a sudden shocks them with that physical contact that we previously talked about. To wrap up this segment, one of the key things here in regards to staying squared up with your offensive opponent, he beats the offensive player to the spot either by sliding with him and still keeping that first contact, or he will sprint and beat them to the spot. Now, a lot of people think they have to keep shuffling and defensive sliding, as people would like to call it in basic terms, but sprinting and beating somebody to the spot can be just as good, creating a second contact leading to a poor decision from that offensive player attacking downhill. Next, let's get into ball screen defense, as this is one of the highly used methods on offense in the NBA. So having a guy that can play through ball screens and disrupt a ball screen action is very valuable. As we continue to work through this video, I want you to think about how a combination of every concept is used on almost every play we see Jrue Holiday make a defensive play in. Because yes, physical contact's a thing. Squaring up and cutting them off to a spot is a thing. But now we add the fact that he uses his active hands to make plays on the defensive end during ball screen actions. Because once you're screened, you're never out of the play. Because you have to anticipate, which is also another big thing of his we will see later in his off-ball defense. all comes into play when guarding the ball screen action, whether it's the ball handler or the roll man. Active hands is not just taking the ball from somebody or getting deflections, it's also blocking shots. In which Jrue Holiday at like 6'5" is one of the best shot blockers in the league. So, him recovering and beating somebody to that spot after the ball screen in some of these plays we're seeing right now, he beats him to the spot and anticipates a shot at the basket and jumps up for the block. Now, not a lot of guards can do this as they will typically give up on the play after they're screened. To start this play, Jrue Holiday forces Zach LaVine to reject the screen, forcing him to a spot on the floor that he does not want to go to. And then as Zach LaVine reuses the screen, he still gets forced into a spot and a floating leaner to the left, which is a spot he still doesn't want to go to. And a quick side note, if you're playing against ball screens, physicality is okay. And Jrue Holiday uses his right arm to wrap around the ball screener to be able to recover to his offensive matchup faster. Physicality is okay, and I feel like that's being flushed out of people's brains nowadays at any level. So be physical, whether it's isolation defense or pick and roll defense, it doesn't matter. He does the same swim move here on the rescreen, and you see where it put him. In position to make a play before the shot gets any closer to the basket. Jrue Holiday's pick and roll defense shows the ability and the importance of active hands, anticipation, and playing physical through the ball screen to make a play for your team. Now let's take a look at his post defense, as this shows his versatility to guard 1 through 4 on the court. As an offensive player posting up, the floor really shrinks down and your room to work is very minimal. So this plays into Jrue Holiday's hands because he stays on his feet and very rarely jumps at the offensive players, pump fakes, and moves. So being steady and with his anticipation leads to good contests and a lot of stops in the post from Jrue, showing why size doesn't matter sometimes. He even makes first contact here in the post and keeps that contact, shrinking the amount of space between him and his opponent, and it leads to a better contest in the end. A key to post defense is trying to keep them away from the basket in their starting position. And here at the free throw line, Blake Griffin will spin, and then you see a second contact making him fade away. Now, here we all know what move Dirk wants to get to, but Jrue does a good job of staying along his right shoulder line to get the contest. And speaking of Dirk, go check out all of our socials in which we posted a move of the week every Wednesday, and Dirk was included. Go check it out, like, follow, and subscribe. As we wrap up talking about post defense, remember, it's the same thing. The keys are the same. Cut them off, stay squared up, and anticipate where they will go next. Getting into some of his clutch moments throughout his career, you think Jrue Holiday is beat on this play, but as he stands up, he will do something we call a push step, in which he uses his inside foot, his left foot, to push and cut off Andrew Nembhard here and run out in transition afterwards. This is a technique not often taught, but is helpful in making up ground. This inside foot push step serves the same purpose as sprinting and beating somebody to the spot. So if this technique is often used and learned by anyone, then you too can turn yourself into an elite defender. And listen, I didn't forget, I will show you an off-ball play made by Jrue Holiday now. Here's where his anticipation and active hands also come into play. Again, a combination of everything, guys. You can't just have one thing or the other, or else you're going to be an average to below average defender. So think about everything I'm saying and try and throw it into a combination of skills and use them to the best of your ability. Jrue Holiday flows into help side, seeing Marcus Smart with his back turned to him, and comes from behind and blocks the shot. This is a great play at the end of the game, knowing that the clock is not in the offensive team's favor, being the Celtics here. He understands the situation, playing situational basketball, and knowing he has to play help. He gets himself in the best position, being one pass away. Instead of going to play his guy who won't get the ball, he makes the play himself. That'll do it for another episode of Court Vision, a Life in the Stands production. I hope you learned some valuable key defensive skills to make yourself better on that end of the court, through Jrue Holiday's lockdown defense. If you like content like this, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please like, follow, comment, and subscribe. And remember, the film never lies.